Complete morons. You are there. You looking sheepishly like a bunch of white. In fact, a hyena is better than all of you. Why do I even? Can I manage my makeup? If I want to interact, that is why I don't go to parties. I don't do anything because the way we reason is laughable. If I want to interact with true Africans, I go to wildlife safari park. At least if I see a zebra, a chimpanzee, those are our true Africans. We can mingle together. Maybe I can understand them better. Because at least if they see danger, they can run. All of you see danger and you keep embracing it. Keep embracing it. Look at Imo State. How many people in Imo State? Over 5 million. Somebody came forth in an election. They pushed him to number 1. Everybody's just like this. Even some bishops want to go and congratulate him. Some people said, hey, don't touch him. Oh. He's our man. Hey, let's move him forward. These are black people. Very backward. Useless. When they kill in America, you say, hey, it's racism. Racism. You are a fool. That's not like racism. They are killing you because of your natural stupidity. By nature, you are stupid as a black person. Do you have running water? Without maybe solar charger and generator, will you be watching me now? Are you not ashamed of yourselves? Are you not ashamed? But UNN has engineering department, electrical engineering, electrical and electricals, all rubbish. Uniport has it. Uniben has it. Everywhere. Electrical and electrical engineering. Whatever that rubbish means, I don't know. No, electrical and electronics. But there is no light. The reason why they sent you to school to go and study electrical engineering is so that when you come out, there will be no more power shortage in the village. That's the reason why. So you don't know. Hey, Jesus. Biafra must come. And when Biafra does come, everybody will be free. If Biafra is not free, none of you is going to be free. And that is why I have said it before and allow me to repeat. We have come to set all of you free. And if you allow this nonsense to continue, you'll be sunk. If you have not gotten your Somali visa, go and get it now. Because the zoo is gone. And the hell has arrived. The reason why Mazen Namdekano was kidnapped, an extraordinary rendition, because he raised the dragon flag that you see behind him in that last broadcast that last broadcast I played, that brief of that last broadcast I played. He said the zoo is gone and hell has arrived. And that was why a group of people ganged up and made sure they joined the Nigeria contraption and the British Empire to kidnap an extraordinary rendition him. And today we have 2 years and still counting. Mazen Namdekano is no more. He's still not with us yet. I want to welcome you to this live broadcast today. My name is Kelechi Ambrose, and today is the 10th day of July 2023. Today is Monday. And I know that most of you have been busy from morning, or we're just busy now. Some of you, it's getting late, it's getting dark, you're going home or something. We've been busy here and there. Some of you just woke up from sleep and all of that. You're now busy trying to get your job and you're going to job and all of that. Today is critical because Chukwu Okike has given us opportunity to be alive and to discuss. I thank you for joining wherever you're watching. I want to appreciate you. And for those who will watch later, I want to appreciate you. Some of you don't have the time now, you watch later. Some of you can watch now because you are less busy. And some of you are always consistent. In spite of how busy you are, you always want to be here. Thank you for joining. And of course, this is the platform of truth, where truth is spoken at all times. We speak the truth at all times. We don't give a damn whose ass is God when it comes to unleashing the truth and making sure the truth is established in what we do. This is Biafra Global Network, and today we're looking at how we can work effectively together for restoration of Biafra, for the restoration of Biafra. One important thing about working together is first is agreement. Agreement, or another word is called in English is sorry, I'm sorry. I needed to pick that important, very, very important. I needed to pick it. I want to appreciate you for joining. Now, I was making a statement here, and which and that call came in. Very, very important. Honestly, it's very, very important. It has to do with so many things that are very, very important that we that I need to deal with. Now, one important thing about agreement, about working together is the basis of agreement. The fundamental of every working together is agreement. Another word for that agreement is concord, and that means having a harmony of popular opinions. Harmony of opinions. That means people coming together and having a harmony, of their opinions. Now, I want to let you know that the biggest mistake any kinds of people would make is to find yourself in a situation, yet you are not asking questions. Why are we still in this particular situation? Akwanwa, good to have you. Thank you. Good evening from here. I appreciate you for joining. We have been in this Biafra fight for a long time. In fact, effectively since 1999, aside the issue of 1967, 1999 was Rike began fighting seriously for the Biafra stuff in his own way until he went off track. Called for this, he didn't have the capacity. Those who fall, by the way, are people who don't have the capacity, in that regard. Spiritual capacity, they end up getting themselves, working up, getting themselves worked up in the whole stuff and becoming constituting nuisance. But of course, any time you see something that is purposeful and that has to do with the purpose of life or the purpose of people, do with important values, there must be a challenge towards it. Don't expect to embark on something like this. Anytime you hear of slavery, there is an application of force, which means somebody is forcefully holding some people down. That's what you call slavery. Slavery is a product of itself. Slavery is enforced, and it is an action carried force group of people or a country or a nation. Biafrans, or the slavery we are in, right? Economic slavery, whether political slavery, whether whatever way you call it, whatever you want to call it right now, and social slavery, or whatever way you want to call it right now, the kinds of things we're experiencing now, it is critical because there is force applied. That is why, for instance, in the Nigeria contraption, they don't want community policing, because they know that once the governors have the ability to have police, they would also have control of their territory. And so they would want to have you forced on you. They will force on you their narrative, and it has to come from main group. That means the Fulani controlled. Now, the biggest mistake that we have been making in this Biafra fight since 1999 is that people have refused to ask questions. Why are we not getting results the way we should get results? Fighting since 1999 until now is about 24 years. Am I correct? For those who can calculate very quickly, 24 years. We have been fighting. It's already, clocking silver jubilee, 25 years, silver jubilee. We have been fighting for freedom. And what reasonable people would do is that they will look at the tactics and look at the details and the approach. And that is what reasonable people do. I tell you, when you are passing through something in life, or when you are doing some stuff in life and you are not getting results, you check what you are doing that is wrong. For instance, I'll give you a narrative of an inventor. We hear, according to what we are told, that Thomas Edison was the one who invented the electric bulbs, though there are so many other stories surrounding it where you hear that he actually hijacked it and all of that. But the narrative is that Thomas Edison invented the electric bulb, and of course today we have several kinds of designs all over the place that speaks of innovation. Innovation comes from a particular discovery or a particular invention. From invention, you begin to have innovation. So, which means that when there is an invention, then you will be talking about innovation from invention. Just like you have the first car coming into by the Ford brothers, and then the first car coming in, and then there are inventions. Today you have Toyota, different brands of Toyota. Today you have different brands of Mercedes. You have different brands of BMW, different brands of different kinds of cars, including Rolls-Royce and all those ones. All came from an invention. They are now innovations coming from invention. So let's look at Biafra struggle in that regard, because I want to express it in practical terms so that people can understand what we're doing and what we're saying regarding Biafra here. Akoma, good. I'm seeing your messages. Thank you. Now watch this. As soon as Owazuruke began the fight for freedom, he applied several kinds of strategies. He did all he did, and then in the end, we saw how he ended. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu came up from there, and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu stood and is still standing on truth, transparency, accountability. Now, but in standing, having your principles are not enough. So I want to help us understand something here. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is the custodian of principles. He has principles, and he has the word from Chukwokike. Now, first, let me go to the narrative here, because from the source, you can now look at why the source is linked to the location and the end destination and all of that. Mazen Namdekanu got these words from Chukwu Okike. Remember, Mazen Namdekanu is not perfect. Mazen Namdekanu is a human, and that is why he's being used by God. God is using him as a human. So God empowers him as a human to do things rightly. And whatever he does, whether mistakes or correctly, becomes useful instrument in the hands of Chukwu Okike to get results. That means that is why the Bible says in Romans chapter 8, verse 23 or so, said 25 or so, all things work together for good to them that love the Lord and are called unto his purpose. So when God uses you, he also uses the mistakes, your weakness, everything that has to do with you to get the result. But there's a link between your weakness and who you are. And who you are has, of course, basic weaknesses. But we're not talking about going into criminality. Now, there's a difference between having weakness having weakness and having a criminal mindset. These are two different things. So for the fact that someone has weaknesses does not mean that they will always have criminal mindsets. But people can always have criminal mindsets and yet have weaknesses. Weakness, to be weak, W-E-A-K, N-E-S-S. So as humans, we are limited. That is why we need God to reveal things to us every time so that we can do things rightly. And in this Biafra struggle and movement, we had Wazirike's time that came with his weaknesses and at the same time, his criminal mindset. He gave in to criminal mindset in spite of his weaknesses. God uses your criminal mindset for good to bring about the result. And God also uses your criminality for good to bring about results. But what happens is that your criminal mindset gives repercussion and brings destruction to you, whereas God uses it also to still bring results. I want to draw your mind to all the criminality we have been seeing in Biafra movements and struggle right now. All the people who have been involved, who are involved in criminality and going around and doing criminal things in Biafra. Now, this is a mind surgery show, remember? So I'm trying to give you some information on your mind that you can work with. Everyone who is involved in criminality right now in Biafra movements, all the things we are seeing right now, killing of our people, those who are, including those who are ignorantly or directly and consciously or intentionally funding those criminals, those who are funding them, they are baiters, in law they're called abaters or accomplices. They are accomplices or they are baiters or they are bait crime. They are involved practically, whether directly or indirectly, by funding or otherwise. So they are involved in the criminality going on, carried around by Butuzo and other people who are in this criminal gang, and all of that under Simon, and of course other criminal gangs, that are existent in Biafra land. Now, the fact here is that every kind of criminality is also an instrument in the hands of God to bring about results. So even if you can observe that all over history, in all history, not all over history, in all history, that every activity, everything that people have done, including the evil that they did, God uses it as a program for safeguarding his plan for humanity. So when it comes to Biafra, it is not different. So I want to bring your mind back, because for those people who are weak-minded and who think that the criminalities going on in Biafra land will affect the whole program of Biafra, you're just you're not telling yourself the truth, because that means you don't understand the strength of Chukwu Okike. You don't even understand what God represents. God is perfect. Even Jesus himself says that he is perfect. He is good. It is only God that is good. But God uses weak vessels, and then that is why he is with us. He will walk through though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we'll fear no evil, for he is with us. Because in the valley of death, you would always have your weakness expressed, because fear will creep in, your mistakes will creep in, and everything negative will come up. And of course, in that good side of your mind, where God speaks and uses those good side to help to strengthen your weakness and all the lapses that you have, it still becomes that aspect in which God uses to bring results to what he wants to do through you. Now, in this regard, right now in Biafra, we're looking critically at the fundamentals of the things that have been going on since Wazirike began and then Mazen Namdekan took over. Now, Wazirike started and then ended up criminal, and he compromised and he did all the evils. And we have seen people cash out of the evils. But these evils are not going to deter or stop God from bringing about Biafra. Biafra is the program of Chukwokike. Nobody can stop it. Nobody has the ability to stop it. It's just consistent and it is strong. Yes, but you also, in our human level, we also want to look at it, because these programs, the things that God gives to us and commit into our hands, are meant for us to look over them or watch over them. So we are watchers over the project God gives to us. Biafra project is a project that God has committed into our hands and expects us to carry it out in truth and accountability and in transparency. And so along the line, when we begin to exude our weaknesses, and of course along the line when people begin to exude their criminality, you will discover that Chukwuokike can now begin to step in. And what he does here is that he begins to deal with those people who are exuding their criminality, and then uses that thing that they are doing to bring about the good of the program. Yet, because the project itself is divine, the project is not corrupted by the behavior of the people who are mandated or who somehow indirectly got themselves involved in the project. The project itself is divine because it is the program of God. It has nothing to do with the people who or the carrier of the vision. The carrier of the vision can make mistakes or get wrong, but the project itself is divine. So because it sprouts from the divine, from God, Chukwokike. And so since it is divine, Chukwokike now designs the platter or the template for it. And what he does is he fixes people into the program and not them organizing the program. So the program of Biafra is a template of God where God brings people into it and gives them the mandate. Just like you see the program of the kingdom of Israel when Saul was brought as a means of becoming the president or whatever he's called, the king as at that time when Israel demanded for a king. The program of God is that he's going to be in control. God is going to be in control of Israel. And yet still, even if it's tautology anyway, yet still, the nation of Israel is still under the command of God. And in the end, Jesus is going to have the kingdom. Just like you see in the book of Isaiah chapter 9, where he said that the government shall be upon his shoulder and he shall be called Emmanuel and all of that. And God, and of the increase of his kingdom, there shall be no end. That means in the last days, the kingdom will still return to God. Now, remember, God said he's going to be the king of Israel. And then Israel demanded for a king. And God told Samuel, give them a king. It was an error, but God was going to use it to glorify himself, because in that error, it will cost them a lot. They will get the repercussion. They will get themselves hurt. They will get so many things happen to them. But in the end, God is still going to be their king. And then yet God is still going to save them. So God saves them because God's program must come to pass. That is why God will always save the remnant, those who are left and those who have been called. Now, in Biafra program, we have effectively, today is the Mind Surgery show. So I want you to understand we're going dimensional in this regard so that we can begin to reason along the line of what we are going through right now. Because so many things are happening in Biafra land now, killings and criminality in the name of Biafras, kidnappings, and so many evils and all of that. And all of these things are very, 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 are setting us aback in our human calculation. But in God's program, they are being propellants for us to launch further to what he wants to. I want you to understand that. And nobody can hold God to ransom. And when it comes to God's programs. So you think you are too smart, or you think you are too important. Once I begin to feel too smart and too intelligent and too important, then God begins to bring me. Pride goes before a fall. So God brings you lower and lower, and then brings other people he can use. God is the one who uses people, and he's the one who gives the intellect. He's the one project then that nobody can do without you. If I think that nobody can do without me, then I am mistaken, because something is going to happen in Biafra project. I key myself in line with and being a master. And that is why I believe in working together. And that's why I believe that in Biafra, we are going to come together to design how we're going to get ourselves and work this program out. And everybody is involved in this. That is why we're calling on you out there to join the accountability and transparency group. Because you know why? In our accountability and transparency group, everyone is designed to make an input. And at that point in time, we now have a common opinion, a common opinion coming from that, which forms the basis of our agreement. Now, this takes us to the topic of today, working effectively together. Today, we have so many people who believe in so many things in Biafra. Some believe in the DOS members, some believe in Simon's Rogue team, some believe in not autopilot. The whole program is autopiloted anyways. It's a function. I've told you before, autopilot is not the name of a group. It is a total function of the whole thing happening right now. The ones who are committing crime, the ones who are committing good, doing the right thing, they're all autopiloted because every of these things will work together for Biafra. They are going to meet the consequences and the disaster they're going to meet. Those ones who are in the line of evil, they're going to meet the disaster. But those ones who are in the line of truth are going to also meet the result of blessing, because that comes from Chukwokike. So the blessing comes to those who are doing the right thing, and the curse goes to those who are doing the wrong thing. If I go the wrong way, I'm going to be cursed. I'm going to face the consequences of my behavior and actions. And that is why we have to watch our ways. We have to watch, he who thinks he stands should take heed lest he falls. That's the words from the scripture. That means you that thinking that you are here, you are rugged, you are committed. Be careful so that pride doesn't get into you, and then you get yourself out of the way, because as soon as pride comes into you, you begin to make errors and mistakes, and those mistakes begin to push you out of the program that Chukwokike has for Biafra, and then you find yourself in a tight situation and get yourself rubbished along the line. Thank you so much, Edith. Good to have you here. I've been expecting to see your message anyway, and it has come. So good to have you. Now, yes. Now, the truth here is, when Biafra projects began, as I was trying to explain with the invention and innovation, because these are two sides of development: invention, innovation. In invention, you discover and you get new things out. In invention, those of you who are into sciences or all of that, you can understand what it means to invent. And that means you are getting something new out. Yes, something new is coming out from your research, from everything that you're putting together, and from your intellect or from your gifts. You put things together and you bring out something new. That is invention. Now, let's just narrate the issue of Biafra as an invention. And then suddenly, after the British has messed us up, and then we want to reinvent Biafra, that means getting it back on track. And Ojukwu had to go that line. And then you saw, every one of us have heard the stories of what happened to Ojukwu and the Biafrans as at that time. Now, from that time, coming closer to 1999, we now have the issue or the time of Uwazuruke. And Uwazuruke now takes on and begin to do what he's going to do, and reinventing. Now, we call it reinvention. I want to use scientific terms here so that we can understand. For those of you who understand, what it means to invent. We've heard those words several times. Not only science students, people hear those words regularly. So I want to use things that we can identify with to narrate what we're doing here. Now, invention means that you are bringing something into the fore. That means you're bringing something new into the system. You created something, or you recreated something from what God has created, and you did it together and you brought it out. And now people can see what you have brought out, and people can say, wow, this is nice. This is solving a problem in the society. You are inventing when you discover a problem and you begin to take action to solve that problem. As soon as you get the solution of that problem, you have invented. That's the simple analogy to this. So you understand what I mean by invention. That means you have gotten it. But in invention, there's room for innovation, because in every invention has room for innovation. For instance, when Thomas Edison was able to, from the time of his trial, we hear that he tried to invent the electric bulb for about 999 times. He tried so many times, and for 999 times he failed. And what happened is that, let's just believe that it is truly 999 times, because I don't know who was counting those times and made it 999 times, and then the 1000th time, he now got it right. But it might just be a kind of symbolic expression. Maybe they're just trying to make it an expression. But let's just assume now that he made it for 999 times, trying to create or to invent the electric bulb. And let's say he tried the first time and he missed it. Now, before he would try the second time, he would have said, maybe I made a mistake in this aspect. Maybe if I do it this way, it's going to be better. So he tries it again the second time, and he tries it, and then he misses it again, and he tries it. In fact, in the whole story, we heard that at a point, the factory or the place where he was using exploded and caught fire. So millions of dollars were lost from trying to invent the electric bulb. In the end, there was an invention. Now, why was he able to get it right? Because he looked into his errors, he looked into his style, his strategy, At every time he misses it, he looks into the strategy and he now corrects the odd for the next time of trial. And in the next time of trial, he misses it. He now looks into it again to see what he did wrong or what he has done wrong. And then he goes again to try to fix it. And then the next time of trial, and he keeps trying until he now gets it. Now, in anything you chase in life that you are missing, especially when that thing is very critical to life, you must consider the facts of invention, the strategy of invention. In Biafra movement, let me streamline it to Biafra because I don't have much time. It's just going to be an hour broadcast. It's not going to be long today. I'm just tired. I fucked out and just came in, had to look for something to eat and then come up to broadcast. And I'm going to go into another meeting after now. So I just have to make it just an hour broadcast so that I'll be able to rest for about 15 minutes before going into the next meeting, or 30 minutes rest. Now, every time you have an opportunity to try to invent or to create something to solve a problem, don't forget that you might meet brick walls. That means you might experience failures. It might even cost you money. It might even cost lives. It might even cost so many situations. Like what my Ojukwu time when he talked about Biafra, it cost lives. Millions of lives were lost, but it was a program for the betterment of the people. And so Chukwu Okike, of course, is in charge of that program. Anytime you find yourself trying to do something new to bring about results, you must consider the mistakes that you make. Now, making mistakes and finding yourself getting into trouble along the line of the mistakes doesn't mean that what you are trying or targeting is not workable, or it's not you can't achieve it. No, it doesn't mean that. You know why? Because everything we do in life that is of purpose, that is meant to solve a problem, is sacrosanct, in the sense that it is in God's bosom. It is perfect, but it is put in the hands of imperfect beings like us to carry out. Biafra project has lingered so much because God takes his program of Biafra for the sovereignty of the nation, the people of Biafra, and puts it in the hands of people who are imperfect. So their imperfection would sometimes cause delays. Their imperfection will sometimes cause stumbling blocks. Their imperfection will sometimes create trifles and create trifling details. I call them trifles because they are not enough. They are not strong enough to stop the mission. And so the imperfection of humanity or man can cause delays in the program of God for man, even if the program of God for man is perfect, because it's coming from a perfect God who have designed it for perfect expression. But man would cause delays. Now, when Uwazuruke came, he was not able to do the right thing, and so it caused delays. In his time, there's delays. The perfect program of Biafra was still intact, controlled by God, but in the hands of imperfect man. So Uwazuruke, in his imperfect state, allowed criminality to get into him, and in his imperfect state, he missed the mark, and then he messed everything up, and there was a stalemate there. And then suddenly Mazi Nnamdi Kanu comes into the program, into the podium, and into the limelight, and then suddenly he begins to push it. And this time around, he decides to bring Chukwu Okike into it and acknowledging him as the source of the program. And it becomes very critical because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was critically explaining to us, teaching us, helping us to understand that this program is of Chukwu Okike. And if this program is of Chukwu Okike, then we must strategically understand it in that light and understand that we cannot glorify man to get to glorify God. Don't glorify God through men. Men glorify God, and not man glorifying a man to glorify God. It's not possible. It is God that gives the blessing and honor people. God honors. So anybody who is working for Biafra at this time, you are only working to be honored by God. And when God makes the nation of Biafra to come, and then Biafra honors you, and then God propelling that honor to come to you, it happens. But when you begin to seek self and begin to seek to control people and to begin to seek to control the narrative by your own devious and your own diabolic and your own narrative, you end up trying to glorify yourself, and God cuts you off. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu came into the whole thing, and as much as Uwazuruke failed, the people were trying to make him also fail. So people came with criminality, people came with their weaknesses, people came with so many their excesses, their negativities, and all of that. Some people also came with their positivity. People around Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, majority of them were criminals, were negative, but some were positive. But because the positives were so dominant, they were not very effective. They couldn't help to push this thing very well. They allowed the negatives to take control. And one thing about negativity is that it is very aggressive. Those who are on the negative side are always aggressive. They always want to push the notion forcefully, because on the negative side, they can do things without their conscience, affecting them. Their conscience will not prick them, because when people are wicked, they tend to carry out actions without considering, the repercussion. Yesterday I've heard it before, several times, that message, all over the world, things happening all over the world. I've heard this particular news before, but yesterday I heard it again. It came again in my mind, and I was so down. I was so out. I was so pained in my heart. And all through today, it's weakened my mind. I began to think, I began to imagine. And what was I imagining? Now, the story here is that there are some gangs of people in this world who are into kidnapping and stealing humans. They steal children between 3 years and 5 years and all of that, and they make them sex slaves. Boys and girls, they make them sex slaves. They put them in a place, locked up, have all these sadists and all these wicked satanic men and women going there to rape these children, 3 to 5 years, 6 years, boys and girls, raping them, and multiple times in a day. You can have different men coming to have sex with these little children, and then as soon as those children grow up, and they are continually drugged. They drug them, they inject drugs into them, they keep them drugged. So these children, and then when they and continue in that way, and these children continue in that way, they are raped, they are abused, there are several things from 3 years to 5, 6. And then when they get to the level of sure, and then they have been abused several times and become worthless, maybe around the age of 15 or so. And to other organizations and other places where criminality, human harvest. Particular man, I actually watched an interview, with one of the men who is into this kind of crime, and his face was not shown anyways. And I would just imagine myself that I am sitting somewhere and somebody is going through that hell somewhere. And as we talk now, as we speak, as I'm making this broadcast, and as you are listening, there are children somewhere, locked up somewhere, being raped day, and then they will harvest their organs. They will cut them open as they are alive, open them up and take their organs, so that the organs will still be fresh and all of that, and harvest their organs until they suffer. They die gradually in that pain until they suffer to death. Now, these kinds of evil are going on in this world we live in, and these evils are committed by people who are of they are sons of perdition. This morning I woke up with that pain in my heart, because when I listened to that man yesterday saying the same thing, I think I heard that last year when I heard the first time I heard that documentary. It so pained me and pissed me that I felt I have supernatural powers to stop some evils going on. But what would I do? I'm not God, and I don't know why God permits that. I can't argue. I can't say anything. But and today I woke up in that thing still in my mind. In fact, it's played in my dream, and then I woke up with that pain. And throughout today, I was feeling sad, because I was wondering what people are going through, and I was just thinking what the kinds of evil going on in this world. Now, there's so many evils going around, even in Biafra right now as we speak. There are people who have been kidnapped, kept somewhere, being raped, their organs being harvested. So many kinds of evil going on everywhere. And all of these things we can't stop, because we have limited powers. We are restricted. We are restricted, but God is supernatural. And God permits all of these things to happen. God permits this pain to happen to some people. And we should be thankful to God, because God does not allow us go through this. You should be thankful to God that you are not part of this, or your children have not been captured in this way and used this way. You should be thankful to God for all of this stuff. But sometimes we tend not to understand this. Now, when good people sit by and watch things, the evil people are always forceful and they want to impose things. That is why you see that in the contraption called Nigeria, those who are in control are the evil ones, because Nigeria is designed to be evil, and then they give opportunities to those who are going to run their evil programs to take control. That is what the British have done, and that's what they have actually tried to utilize as a means of destroying the good people. And the good people sat by and still allowed this thing. Now, do you know that if people can stand up strongly and decide to fight evil, they can prevail? It's always true that the right will always prevail against the wrong if the right can take force. Also, a holy force. There's something called holy anger. You take holy force. They take their AK-47, you get your AK-49. It's self-defense. We have to be rugged, and we have to come up to understand that being righteous does not mean sitting down and watch ourselves being killed and destroyed. And what we are doing for Biafra, and what you and I have to do for Biafra right now, is to stand to make sure there's no repeat of Nigeria in what we're doing, because the repeat of Nigeria will definitely spell doom for us all. And that is basic. So we must understand this in this note. Now, that brings me to the point of what we're talking about. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu now is in control. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu being the one chosen, yet having his weaknesses, and yet having people around him, those who are criminal also, and few of them also all of them having their weaknesses, but the majority of them are being criminal. And then we have seen all that have played out right now. Now, just like I was given the example of the Thomas Edison narrative, when you make a mistake, you try to discover your mistake and then try to make it better the next time until you are able to get results. How much more, I want to ask you now, this is the big question I'm going to ask you. How much more have you sat on your own to consider what are the mistakes we're making in this Biafra project? Because the only thing that delays any project that is fantastic, that is designed by God himself, is human actions or inactions. Human actions does not stop, or inactions does not stop the project, but it can delay the project. That is why when God gives a project, he commits it to humans, because the project is going to favor them. God expects them to utilize this project for themselves because it's going to favor them. It's God's program for them. But they must commit their time and everything to it. And whenever they do something wrong, they are going to face the repercussion of what they have done wrong, and it's going to affect the whole program and the whole system. Now, have you ever asked yourself, why are we having delays? Why are we having these serious problems in this Biafra project? Why? Have you ever asked yourself? Have you ever asked yourself that question? What is the cause of the delays? What is the cause of the denials? What is making us drag off? What is making us drag our feet? What is causing us to lose as if we're losing, as if we're not making headway? Have you ever asked yourself the question? Now, working effectively together comes with fundamental features, because you can't work effectively together when you don't have an agreement or concord. That means that agreement is connected to some features that would make up that agreement. So if we want to talk about Biafra now, the first thing we have to do now, if we want to get results, that's why under our accountability group, we are very vast and very versatile. We think very deep. We want to know the problem. Why are we having this problem? First, you look at the past. You look at the past. What were the things done that has cost us these delays? What are the things done that have cost us these delays or denials? You look back, one, you will discover that we had people were not concentrating on God as the originator of this project. But that was solved when God brought Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to the fore, right? That means Mazi Nnamdi Kanu began to teach the ways of God. Two, if you look critically, into the story of the 1967 war, that started with the 1948 or 49 killings of Biafrans, and long time, even the 1929 of killing of Biafrans, long time even before the creation of Nigeria, the killings of Biafrans, the killings of indigenous people, just to force them to be subject to them. If you look into that narrative, you discover that the second point here I want to point out from that is there are saboteurs who are instrumental in the hands of the enemies to control the people or to fight against the people. Now, which means one, the God narrative, two, the human factor, that means sabotaging. Then three, there were people who were materialistic and whose intention, even if they were not working directly with the British contraption, but who, because of hunger and selfish desires, gave in and allowed themselves to be used by those who were working for the British construct amongst our people. For instance, let me give you an instance. When they're getting close to their elections, you see they come to share 5,000, they share rice, they put beans, they share onions. You see somebody brand Gary and then put his picture there, to give to people. And people will take it and are joyful that somebody has given them food that they will cook that moment and they eat, and then that's the end. Now, because of the situation of our people, they were compromising. Now, there are the first set of people who compromise by being used by the British directly to control their people. And then these ones who are used by the British directly to control their people become the ones now who contract or manipulate their own people by giving them stipends. Which means the problem we have about Biafra 1 is sabotage to the God narrative. Thank God that God now brought Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to correct these things. Now, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu now have done his fantastic job. He has taught us of the ways of God. He has said so many things about God. And today we don't have much viewers. We just have 2, 5, 6 people watching. But I know people will watch later anyways. I know I didn't actually publicize it. So some people might not have the notification, but they will watch later. Now, these things happen, and people began to glorify men, thinking that the arm of flesh will give them results. And so when it came to the time of the war, everything was, we have what it takes. If you watch the speech of Ojukwu, everything, we have what it takes. We are going to do it. We have this, we have that. They can defeat us. We are always talking about ourselves. We kept God out of the equation. And so the war was fought by humans who didn't know that the project is of God. And so they were fighting a spiritual fight with physical weapons. Oh my God. Physical weapons are needed in also supporting, what you do in the physical realm to bring about the spiritual fights or bring about spiritual manifestation of God's program. But you must first give the place of the spiritual. You must first identify the place of the spiritual and demand that the spiritual takes preeminence. Just like when Joshua was going to fight, he saw the commander of the army of God, and he saw the man holding his sword. He said, "Are you for us or against us?" He said, "We are." Because of their selfishness. Yes, he didn't do because of their selfishness. That's it. He said, "Are you the commander? Who are you?" He said, "Are you for us or against us?" He said, "I'm the commander of the Lord's army." And he said, "Wow." Joshua bowed down because they subjected themselves to the one who is in charge of the battle. Now, how many times have we now subjected ourselves to the one who is in charge of the battle? Chukokike. Now, when God saw that we were beginning to try to glorify people, God permitted that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu be taken off. The enemies think that they tried to destroy Biafra project by taking Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but they lost. In fact, they were actually helping to make sure that this work come to pass according to the plan of God. So when they took Mazi Nnamdi Kanu away, God wanted to bring about the establishment of this program, one, on the platform, on the basis that he would be glorified and he alone would be seen. And then God sets a program where no man becomes glorified and only God becomes glorified. And that is accountability and transparency group, where everybody will come together to work, to put their energy together. And then only God becomes the commander in chief, where nobody will show themselves as the one controlling anything. But Chukwuokike becomes the one to be worshipped and to be praised. And so the program, the ideas of the people are brought together. And then these programs and the ideas of the people are utilized in the context of glorifying God. So God is now forming these things to make us work effectively. So the agreement to work together must be on the premise of understanding, one, that God is the one in charge of this project. Two, that we are going to come together to form a team, collective responsibility here, where we all will work together to see that we bring about this program of God to come to pass in our lives, as much as we identify God as the one who controls. So God has used Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to teach people to understand all of this stuff. But people are still confused about this whole thing, and they're still taking the glory in their hands. And God takes Mazi Nnamdi Kanu away for a while and wants the people to begin to look up to him, to know that he is God. And then he will bring Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in, and then we move to God, and he's the one in charge of this project. So that is what it is. That's why I'm going to play this voice of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu now, so that you will understand, unless we stay in truth and honesty, can never get Biafra in a trillion years. Now, I'm going to critical voice that I need to play so that you can get to understand. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to say some few things. That's for today.
If we abandon.
Now, watch this, please. Watch it. I want you to listen to it very critically. He said, if you abandon Chukwokike, get Biafra. So all of you who are flaunting, you can never get Biafra by that. We must come together. But first, we must come together recognizing Chukwokike is I think I'm having problems with the network, so let me see.
If we abandon Chukwokike Abiyama in truth and honesty, kiss goodbye to Biafra. Biafra can have in the pure years. You'll be only running around in circles. You can never come. It is the kingdom of heaven itself. You want to do something that is happening in heaven, on earth, for mankind to see and testify to the goodness of the Lord. You have to be of the courage. You have to be without fear in the face of your enemies. If you are without fear before your enemies will run from you. Rather than you running from them, your enemies will run from you. If you speak the truth always, regardless of the consequences, lies will run from you. You must protect those who cannot protect themselves, not to steal from them. I repeat, it is your job as a child of heaven, IPOB family member, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is your job. Not to kidnap them, not to rob them. You must be of good conduct that Chukwokike Abiyama left. If these conditions are not in place, Biafra will not come. Biafra ga-abịa. Going to a native doctor, cannot save you. If you want Biafra, it doesn't work. We don't believe in that rubbish. Chukwokike Abiyama is our shield and our guide. We don't commune with darkness. I am warning all 17 commanders, all our commanders, we don't commune with the devil. We don't do Odeshi. We believe in the protection that Chukwokike Abiyama can offer. The weapon you need to protect yourself is your gun and your ammunition. We don't commune with spirit.
You see, most of us take this message of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for granted because we always want to say, we always want to look down on things that are spiritual. We just want to always talk about what are we doing, what are we going to do, and you don't know on the basis or on the premise Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was asking for 100 men. Was asking for 100 men not because he just wants people to gather, no, but because as soon as we're able to identify Chukwokike, then the 100 men will now become very effective. And that 100 men must must be people of truth, accountability, and transparency. And that's why accountability and transparency group is created. So when Mazen Namkan was talking about 100 men, he was speaking spiritually. He was projecting a spiritual narrative to us through the spiritual mindset that was given to him by Chukwokike. He tells us now when we abandon Chukwokike, all we're doing is in vain. We're just going in circles. We will never get it. And if you think that you are going to get it by juju, like Simon, who is telling you that he wants to patronize demons and Satan, he tells you if you go that way, you will not get it. Heaven knows that what you are saying is true. Yes, I call my good. Yeah, good. Yes, of course, definitely, very true. If Nedu says I really miss our leader's voice, yes, you're going to get to hear his voice again, but he's going to come out and we're going to hear his voice. Chuko will bring him out. So if you disregard this statement, then you don't know what you're doing. Then you are not ready for Biafra, because the only way Biafra will come is when we begin to work according to what Mazen Namkan have said. That's the only way. So if you think that you can play it the other way around, you are wasting your time. We'll keep having our people die. Our people will keep dying. But we must come to understand this, that Biafra will only come when we recognize God. And then we now have the 100 men who will now sit to work together. Now, let me tell you something. There is nobody who cannot be an instrument. Even the one you think is the worst person, God uses them. They can go around and do their evils. God uses them. But for transparency and accountability, God brings about people who have the hearts and knowledge of Chukwokike. Those who have the hearts and knowledge of Chukwokike, those are the people he brings together. Any other person can do anything they want to do wherever they are doing their stuff. God will still use them. The repercussion of their evil will fall on them, but God will still use their program to bring up, to manifest what the right people will be doing, or the people who stand on the path of truth. So if you think that the 100 men Mazen Namkan was talking about is anybody, no, he was not referring to anybody. He was referring to people whose spirits have been encapsulated with the narrative of truth, transparency, and accountability. What did Moses do? What did Moses do? God sent him on an errand, but his father-in-law tells him, his father-in-law speaks the mind of God and says, you need to select men whose spirit will, yes, you are going to transfer that grace of God upon them. And these men will judge Israel and be able to judge the people rightly so that you don't get wearied. God is establishing 100 people who are going to be sit on behalf of Mazen Namkan and adjudge the whole program and carry out the whole program in a transparent, accountable way, on a platform of transparency and accountability. And Mazen Namkan will be the leader under God, not under himself, or not by himself, but under God. And if you listen to him carefully, you'll know that he doesn't joke with that narrative of God. He's very critical about it. He's very committed to it. He's very firm on it. He keeps saying it over and over. In fact, at the point when we started giving him names, he told us not to give him names. People started calling him Savior. He said, don't call me Savior. But of course, sometimes we use the word Savior, not in the narrative of putting him before God, but because we just are looking at his work as redemptive, the redemptive work he's carrying out based on the mandate given to him. But our people, majority of our people still use that word Savior to try to replace God. And that's where we're getting it wrong. But God is setting up the 100 men right now who are going to be effectively there to make things work. And that is why you see that the clock will start ticking now towards our freedom. The clock will start ticking. The clock will start ticking. The clock will start ticking. You and I must not wait. We must come together right now. That is why we're calling upon you. I always say that is why, because I'm leading you to the why. We want you to come The number is on the screen. You call, you send a message. If you call, it doesn't go through, you send a message. The message will come. You want to be part of the accountability and transparency group. We have to come together to form the 100 men. And it is only under transparency and accountability you can prove and approve of the 100 men. It's from nothing else, because it takes people who are standing on the path of truth to be accountable and transparent. So if you're talking about transparency and accountability, you're talking about those on the path of truth. You can't, there's no other way. So anybody who tells you they are transparent or accountable, look at them. Are they following the narrative of truth? Look at the people who are killing our people. Look at the people who are lying to Biafrans, telling you it's propaganda. Tell you they have the house in Maryland, in USA. They bought a house or they acquired a house and they're going to put Biafra flag in front of the house, massively in front of the house, and coat of arms on top of the house. Have they done that today? Lies upon lies. They're going to stop oil exploration. They're going to do so many. They're going to stop election, and everything is happening. That tells you that truth is not in them, and hence they cannot be accountable and transparent. No wonder they refuse to give account of the resources in the custody. I want to appreciate you all. I'm going to stop it for 1 hour, so I don't want to exceed 1 hour. So it's going to stop here. I want to appreciate you. I would have given us, but Saturday is always our call day, and last Saturday we couldn't do any calling, and because there was a long meeting we had, meeting that took a very, very long time, from from morning to night. We were just in the meeting, so that is why we couldn't come for the calling for the interactive segment. This Saturday we're going to have it, and for you to ask questions, whatever you want to ask. If you want to ask questions about accountability and transparency group, you want to ask questions pertaining to the whole narrative of freedom fighting and what we're doing, you want to ask questions, you're free to ask. This is our nation, and we all must work together to make sure that we get our nation. I want to appreciate you all for watching. I want to thank you so much for making your time always to be here. Those of you who have sent message, Edith Nedu Akwanwa, I think basically it's just the two of you who have sent messages today. Akwanwa has bombarded me with so many messages. At the same time, also Edith Nedu has sent some messages too. I want to appreciate you guys, and those who didn't send messages but you are either watching, and those who are going to watch later, and you want to get the narrative of truth, please circulate this message all over social media platforms. Let people listen to these messages. People are watching on Twitter now, on her Kelechi Ambrose on Twitter. People are watching on Facebook page, Biafra Global Network Facebook page. You want to join the Biafra Global Network Facebook page, you can just go to Biafra Global Network, type it, Biafra Global Network page. On Facebook, you'll see it, and then you follow us, and then you'll be getting messages and updates of the things you need to know, not gossips, but things that you need to know, critical things that need to be known. That's why you see that on our platforms, we don't gossip. We try to bring things that are real. Thank you all. I love you all. God bless you. Real good.